Okay, our regularly scheduled council meeting of November 18th is now in session. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mulvey?
Here.
Councilmember Brinkman?
Here.
Councilmember Cole?
Here.
Councilmember Ostermiller?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Here. Would you all rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda is in front of you. Does anyone have any additions or modifications to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add under the general discussion, special session minutes.
Okay.
Little more guidance on those.
Any objection? Any other changes, additions? The minutes are then approved as modified. I understand that we have a Boy Scout troop here, Troop 114, that meets at United Methodist Church. Welcome. And you don't have to stay the whole meeting unless your merit badge requires that. Minutes. We've got the minutes of October 14th. Are there any changes?
Oops, go ahead.
I have one on page 275. I'm irritated because John got to vote twice and I didn't get to vote at all. It's got his name there twice.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Peggy?
Yes, sir. On page 1, line 9, that should be special meeting, not regular meeting.
109?
Page 9 on page 1, line 9.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Page 1, line 41, it's CAFR, C-A-F-R. Page 4, line 154. Because this is a slight condensing of the actual wording, it does not make clear there that we didn't repeal all sales tax, but only the solar alternative energy sales tax installation.
So you want to insert solar
If that
before
is
sales
okay.
tax?
It was in the context of the full statement.
Okay.
That's
Any other
it.
changes? Then those minutes are approved with those modifications. Minutes from November 4th. Any changes?
One on page 7, 301. The man's name is Noel, N-O-E-L. Second word there, Tom Noel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Right above that in line 300, it's Historical Museum Board. So we know which historical board that was.
Okay.
And on page 2, line 58, it's minor rather than minute corrections, although it's often minute, but it was minor corrections.
Okay. Anything else? Then those minutes are approved with those changes. Mr. City Manager, any new employees you want to introduce?
Mayor, I do have one new employee. If she would stand, Erlene Gladden. Erlene is our new accountant analyst with the Finance Department. She hails from Hannibal, Missouri, where she attended Hannibal LaGrange College, got a degree in accounting, and then went to work for the state of Missouri in their student loan program in Jeff City, Missouri. But she tells me that she didn't like the skiing in the Ozarks, and so she wanted to be a little closer to the Rocky Mountains, so she decided to move west, and she's joined our Littleton family. So welcome to Erlene.
Good decision, and welcome. It's good to have you here. Thank you for coming down to be introduced. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting either. All right, that brings us to guest citizens. Maria Fountain. And this evening, the Littleton City Council is pleased to recognize Maria Fountain. If you can come down, please. Thank you. For the support she has provided to the Littleton Police Department as an unofficial translator. Police Chief Heather Coogan will also present her with the Littleton Police Department Citizens Appreciation Award. Mrs. Fountain is the wife of Littleton Police Officer Jim Fountain, which we all remember from just 2 weeks ago. Was assisted by the fellow that helped you drive to find the suspect. She has helped the police department on numerous occasions as a Spanish translator. On July 14, 2008, Fountain volunteered to translate for a non-English speaking family whose baby had stopped breathing. Over the phone, the assistance she provided saved precious time for the paramedics in determining what treatment to give the child. The Littleton City Council and the Littleton Police Department extend their sincere appreciation to Maria Fountain for the aid she has given to Littleton Fire Rescue, the Police Department, and citizens who have all benefited from the valuable translation services she has donated. Thank you.
I have this for you, Maria, and I would just like to say Maria is part of the Littleton Police family, which is pretty special. And as I said to her coming in here, the chance to save a life is a pretty unusual event and something really special. And a mother kept her baby that day, and we'll see that child grow up, and that's something that you can never change, saving a life. So it's something to really be proud of, because so seldom does someone get to do that. So thank you.
We just wanted to join our brothers and sisters on the police department. You've helped us tremendously in our work, and actually you are credited with saving that life. And so, with Chief Coogan, I'd like to present you a little momentum from Littleton Fire Rescue.
Thank you on behalf of the city for your services. Appreciate it. Next, we want to recognize some students from Field Elementary and Goddard Middle School for their effort to raise funds for a family recently killed. And Jim Taylor has volunteered to read that for me. I will come down, and as your name is called, please come forward. We'll give you a small gift, and then we're asking you to line up here so everybody can see, if that's all right.
On the evening of August 31st, Carlos Cruz was standing on the front porch of his apartment building at 368 West Powers Avenue when a drunk driver behind the wheel of a Ford Explorer struck two parked cars and then drove into the front porch of the building where Cruz was standing with several other people. 3 of them were injured, and Mr. Cruz was killed. He was married with 3 children. With the assistance of Mickey Kemp, who's in our audience tonight, along with his wife and his mother, Mary Bradford. Mickey's a local businessman and a member of the Littleton Police Citizens Academy Alumni Association. Madeline Velez, a counselor at Phil Elementary School, and Maureen Walker from the North Littleton Promise. A car wash was held September 13th and 14th at Bradford Auto Body to raise money for the Cruz family. Velez and Walker rounded up a large group of children to work at the car wash. At the end of the weekend, they had raised more than $3,000 for the Cruz family. This was the second car wash held to help the family of Carlos Cruz. The students are Perla Garcia, Jorge Cobian, Imelda Aguilar, Bermula Chavez. Bill Morrow. Jacqueline Santos.
Whoops, Mayor. Came from the wrong one. This is what elementary school's like. Is the principal here?
Leslie Perez. Elisa Morales. Nora Leonard. Corrine Leonard. Maya Walker. Pedro Archinga. Sorry about that. I know about 12 words in Spanish. Martha Santos. Perla Reyes. Peter Hibben. Arturo Charpero. Esmeralda Cruz. Odalis Cruz. Pieter van Leeuwen. Magda van Leeuwen. William Hunter. Sarah Ann Hunter. Elise Leonard. Makila Moore. McKinley Hamilton. Walker Hamilton. Brandon Moore, Elijah Vargas, Devon De Leon. Mitchell Meehan. Casey Meehan. Natalia Olvera. Bianca Garcia. Reyes Garcia. Alex Olvera. Diego Velasquez. And did I leave somebody out?
Is that Mike or Brandon Moore up there? Michaela, can come on down. One more?
One more here.
I think we have a fine, outstanding group of young people standing up behind us here. Just as you get sit down this time, you back up. As adults in this group know, volunteerism is a great, great community asset to have. And we appreciate all these young men and women coming out to help with a very, very worthy cause. And thanks all to the adults who helped get them there and help with everything else that make this a success. Thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate you being here. And if you'd like to go, we could say class dismissed if you'd like to leave.
But before they're dismissed, Mickey Kemp, you want to come down, please? I think we want to recognize Mickey for the effort that he put into this, also for hosting the car wash at the place, and for all the years of service that you've given to the community, not in just this particular event, but all the other events. So on behalf of the citizens of Littleton, I want to say thank you.
Doug, what about the two ladies who helped him as well.
I
Got two or three other quick people here.
We do. And do you have them down?
Yes. Well, I've lost their names again. Madeline Valewes and Maureen Walker. And I apologize for slaughtering so many of the names this evening.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Now comes the time in our meeting for unscheduled public appearances. This is an opportunity for any citizen to come and express an opinion or ask questions regarding city services, council policies, or any other matters of community concern that are not on the agenda scheduled for their own. She's not here.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I think we're having a presentation.
I'm sorry. The police chief said that Sarah Winter tore her ACL and won't be here. So I apologize.
The fire chief, you mean?
Yes, fire chief. That's right, correct?
So Sarah's not here tonight?
Sarah's not here.
Oh.
Having surgery, and I had to order her to stay home.
Okay, thanks. We were a little confused over here on this
Sorry
side.
about that. So was Tom. I should have mentioned that. So if anyone has anything they want to speak to us about, now would be the time to do that, please. Bobby?
Good evening. My name is Bobby Sheffield. I live at 7215 Houston Waring Circle, Littleton, 80120. And I'm here tonight as a member of the Open Space and Trails Advisory Board for Arapahoe County. And I brought you a present. This is the 2009 grant application for an open space grant. And I know that oftentimes South Suburban does submit grants for projects in Littleton, but I just want to encourage you to submit your own grant. It can be up to $250,000, and I know, being a citizen of Littleton, that we have many worthy projects that aren't necessarily on South Suburban's radar, but would be really beneficial to the city of Littleton. And I also included a card for Daniel Einerson, and he's the grant administrator, and he can walk you through anything you need to know, and I'd also like to offer to help you in any way I could. So I just wanted to encourage you to preserve open space.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's the deadline for that?
The deadline is Friday, February 6th, 2009 at noon.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Carlson.
Good evening, Mayor Clark and the City Council members. I'm Douglas Carlson, 4640 Frontier, Littleton, 80123. Now, I'd just like to make a 2-minute update on the renewable energy program at Mi Cocina Mexican Restaurant, 1600 West Bellevue. I've provided the City Council with a couple of photos on what we've been doing there. We originally wanted to put a wind turbine up first, but the permit process is cooking along on that. So we've decided to put up solar on the patio for a patio awning, and that's been installed on the west side. And as you can see, it's a Sanyo bifacial solar panels. They're glass on glass and will generate electricity from both sides, making these panels about 21% efficient, meaning that they convert 21% of the sunlight that hits them into electricity. XL paid $4 per watt rather than the normal $4.50 per watt because it's west facing. If you're directly south facing and have it tilted, I think at approximately 32 degrees, you get the maximum $4.50 per watt rebate. And we have a total of 4 kilowatts here on this patio awning. The cost was about $40,000. With the rebates and so forth, we'll end up paying about $16,000 cash out of our pocket. The display monitor we have on the inside is set up so that we will be able to show the electricity being generated by the panels and the electricity being used by the building. On the east side, we've moved the meter from around on the back to the east side so that you can see the net meter, and also the inverter is over there to see how much electricity is being generated. And actually, when we're not under full power in the building, you can see the meter go backwards. So, and that's all for educational purposes. I set that up so that schools can bring their children, environmental science classes can come over, and this would be a working model that's in the public rather than in someone's private home and walk in and see this. And in the 20 days that we've been operating, we produced 478 kilowatt hours and saved about 1,200 pounds of CO2. And I'd like to thank the City of Littleton for removing the permit fee. That was much appreciated. And I'll give a little bit of an update on the wind turbine. Mr. Rose in the Planning Department has written an ordinance and presented it to the city attorney, who's looking it over and will present it to the City Council, I believe, for a reading. And that's my update. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions, Mr. Carlson? Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Good luck. Anyone else? Mr. Bagley.
Mayor, members of council, my name is Kent Bagley. My address is 1467 West Briarwood Avenue. And it's with great anticipation I stand here before you to tell you that I'll be your new RTD board director for Littleton and District H. Quite a daunting task. And I also want to indicate to you that it's a humbling one to be elected. And I know that all 7 of you are well aware of that. I want to also express my appreciation to the City Council, the sitting City Council, and former City Council for appointing me to the Planning Commission, of which I've served as chairman for about almost 3 years. It's been a very exciting opportunity for me to serve the City of Littleton, and I'm excited about serving the region as well as the city on the RTD board. It's really a major task to represent the entire district, which is a total of 10 different jurisdictions, as I'm sure you're well aware. And originally, I had thought that I could easily take on both tasks as a member of the Planning Commission and also a board member of RTD. And it's become very aware to me that that's impossible to do. And I had a conversation, as you all know, with Mayor Clark about a week ago on Monday night before our last Planning Commission to tender my resignation as of the end of the year or when you get somebody else appointed. So just to understand that I hold the City of Littleton in great appreciation and admiration for what you do, and I look forward to working with you as your board member on RTD in the future, and I'm sure that there will be lots to do between us, even though most of the activity on fast tracks will be in the northern part of the metro area. But I look forward to continuing to represent the city of Littleton in an exemplary way. So thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Certainly. Congratulations on your election, and thank you very much for your service to the city, to the Planning Commission. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Any questions for Kent?
Maybe you can work on getting my political precinct into your district instead of being attached to Barbara Bowles. I'm the only political precinct in the city that's not in your district.
That's what you told me. I didn't believe it at first, and now I do.
Yep. We're a very northwest corner of the city is not in your council, your district.
Maybe that'll change when the new redistricting.
Hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Kent.
you.
Thank you, Kent.
Anyone else? Mr. Fenson.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is David Svensson. I'm here on behalf of 2609 West Main Street, what used to be Merle's Garage, which is now Merle's Restaurant. I'm here to make the formal announcement that finally we are done with construction. As of today, we are officially opened. And I'm here really to just thank this city, thank the members of this community, the members of Main Street, businesses, property owners for their huge support and outpouring in getting this place approved. I'm here to thank the city staff and all the different departments that I worked with. I've been in this business for about 20 years, building and developing. And I stand behind the statement I've always made about the city of Littleton and all the things that I've done in the Denver metro area, working with this planning department, your building department, the public works department, the fire department has always been a joy as much as it can be doing what we do. It was pretty pain-free, and I just want you to know that you have got a very professional staff, very proficient staff in place. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on the opening of your new restaurant, and we wish you the best of luck and success.
Thank you.
Certainly.
I'm Carol Breezak, and I live in the 4th District. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but I heard Peggy had added an item to the agenda about minutes. Would you repeat that title for me?
I believe we're going to have a discussion about minutes for special meetings.
Okay. Since this is my opportunity to put my 2 cents in, you know I've been concerned about special meetings, study sessions for years. And I would like to hear the council discuss special meetings and study sessions, because as we know, study sessions, no decisions are supposed to be made. Your rules state such, but your rules also contradict themselves in saying that all special meetings, or excuse me, all study sessions shall be special meetings, which is a real contradiction and puts the council in a difficult position, because there are times you do need to have study sessions, and right now your rules don't allow for you to have them. I have attended meetings where you have adjourned to go into a study session, and in my mind that tells me no decisions can be made, no decisions will be made. But yet decisions will be made in that study session, and then the minutes will come out. Instead of calling it a study session, it'll be titled a special meeting. I really would like for the terminology to be defined so that we all understand what it means when you're going into a study session and what it means when you're going into a special meeting. Thank you.
Certainly. Anyone else? Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items can be adopted by a simple motion. All ordinances and resolutions, but not simple motions, must be read by title prior to the votes. Any consent agenda item can be removed by the request of council member, and these are considered to be items that are fairly uncontroversial. The first is a resolution to approve a budget for 2009 for the City of Littleton Fire Department's Permit Plan Review Enterprise. If you could read that by title, please.
It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Fire Department Permit and Plan Review Enterprise, approving the 2009 budget.
We have 3 different Tabor Enterprise funds. This is one of the 3. We approved the budget of this as a separate entity, and we are also doing the budget for the rest of the city later on. Second one is a resolution to approve a budget for 2009 for the City of Littleton Emergency Medical Transport Enterprise.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Emergency Medical Transportation Enterprise, approving the 2009 budget.
This is a second of our Tabor Enterprise funds. The third one is item C, which is a resolution to approve a budget for 2009 for the City of Littleton, Colorado Sewer Utility Enterprise.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, as the governing body of the City of Littleton Sewer Utility Enterprise, approving the 2009 budget.
Thank you. Next, item 7D is a resolution by the City Council of Littleton requesting full department entry coverage under the FPPA defined benefit systems. If you could read that by title, please.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, requesting full entry coverage under the FPPA defined benefit system administered by the Fire and Police Pension Association for members currently covered by the money purchase pension plan of the City of Littleton Fire Department.
This is a resolution that would transfer the benefit plan for the fire department from the current city administered plan to a plan that's administered by the FPPA. This was the Tabor implications of this were voted on by the citizens in the last election, which passed 60-some%. And this resolution would finalize that multi-step process. Item 7E, please, is an ordinance on first reading amending the sales tax code.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending City Code Section 3-9-3-2 relating to tax exemptions for charitable school organizations.
And this is a ordinance on first reading that would amend the sales tax code so it's not collected from PTO associations that are raising money for benefit purposes, and this would put us in line with the state. And the last item is item...
Public hearing date.
Pardon?
Public hearing date.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the public hearing date on that is December 2nd. Thank you. Item 7F is an ordinance on second reading amending the 2008 budget.
An ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending ordinance number 19, series of 2007, known as the Annual Appropriation Bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Jefferson, and Douglas, State of Colorado, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2008, and ending December 31, 2008.
Mayor, you misspoke. That's the first reading on the 2008 budget.
I'm sorry. It's the first reading on the 2008. The public hearing, the second reading is December 2nd.
Yes, sir.
This is a budget that makes this is an amendment that makes a number of adjustments to the budgets to take into account increased expenditures for various items and also to take into account the excess Tabor funds that were approved by the voters in this last election.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of consent agenda items A through F.
Second.
Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay. And brings us to a second reading and the ordinance on second reading regarding the 2009 annual appropriation ordinance and the 2008 mill levy. If you can read that by title, please.
An ordinance to be known as the Annual Appropriation Bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson, State of Colorado, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2009, and ending December 31, 2009.
And before we get this, I must say, congratulations, guys, fire department. You're in there. I'll be signing that thing tonight or tomorrow, and then it goes to FPPA. Phil tells me I'm signing it tonight. Okay. Now back to money, 8A.
Council, Doug Farman, your finance director, is actually home ill with the flu tonight. But Tiffany Hooten and Denise Grizzle are here from the Finance Department. As Council knows, and anybody who's watched our process, this is the culmination of a very, very long budget process this year that started back in August with over 5 study sessions. I think the council communication outlines some of the changes that were made, where the line items were moved. Staff is here to answer any questions that council may have, or if there's any questions that come up as part of your public hearing process.
This is a public hearing. However, there are no names on the public hearing roster, but anyone is welcome to come down and speak to us about this issue. Seeing none.
I move that the public hearing be closed and that the 2009 annual appropriation ordinance be approved on second and final reading, ordered published by posting at the Littleton Center, Bemis Library, the Municipal Courthouse, City of Littleton website. Council President is hereby authorized to affix signature thereto.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2009 annual appropriation ordinance and 2008 tax levy.
And Mayor, I didn't read that second one into the record. Do you want me to read it?
Please.
It's an ordinance to be known as the annual appropriation bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, County of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson, State of Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 2000. Oh, sorry, that is the one I read. The second one is an ordinance establishing the tax levy of 6.662 mills to defray the costs of municipal government and pay debt service of the City of Littleton, Counties of Arapahoe, Douglas, and Jefferson, State of Colorado for the city's fiscal year beginning January 1, 2009, ending December 31, 2009.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'd like to offer an amendment. I move that we delete line item 8500 in Fund 37, which is the water fund, transfers to the general fund, and that we decrease the revenue in the general fund by the corresponding amount.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to amend the annual appropriation. Any discussion on the amendment? John.
A question for staff as to what effect that has on a balanced budget. Do we have to take more out of reserves, or what is this resolution of that?
Yeah, Tiffany will come down and address that for you.
Actually, Mayor, I think we did already reduce the water fund by the 60,000.
Yeah, I'm talking the 460.
The interest.
The interest portion.
The interest.
Okay, I'm sorry. If we reduce the transfer into the general fund by the 460,000, then we're going to have to take the $460,000 revenue that we expected to come into the general fund out of fund balance, or find another funding mechanism to cover that shortfall.
And that brings our projected fund balance down to about $4.5 million, somewhere around there.
If I remember correctly.
Further discussion? Council ready to vote on the amendment? The amendment is to amend the budget to take out the transfer from the water fund to the general fund. Dr. Cole?
Oops, I'm sorry.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, we're now back on the main motion. The main motion is to approve the annual appropriation ordinance. Any further discussion? Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, that takes us to item 8B, which is an ordinance on second reading amending the city code pertaining to the disposition of intangible property.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending City Code Section 6-5-15 pertaining to the disposition of intangible property.
Council, again, with Mr. Farman at home ill with the flu, but Eric Green, our sales tax administrator, is here tonight. I think in very brief terms, this was initiated by Councilmember Cole. Basically, the very short version of this is it would reduce shorten the amount of time that an outstanding check could be held against the city books from 5 years to 6 months. and the Finance Department supports this. The staff is here to answer any questions from council or any questions if you get it from at the public hearing.
Any questions of staff? This is also a public hearing, but there's no one down on the public hearing roster for this. However, you're welcome to come down and speak on this issue. Seeing none, a motion.
I'm sorry. Somebody else can claim it, but it's a good motion. I move the public hearing be closed and the City Code Section 6515 be amended and the ordinance be approved on second and final reading, ordered published by posting at the Littleton Center, Bemis Library, the Municipal Courthouse, and the City of Littleton website, and the council president is hereby authorized to affix his signature thereto.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance changing the time that we hold intangible property to 6 months. Any discussion?
Yes.
Jose.
Included within all of these outstanding checks that we have at the present time, we have 4,686 for a total of $115,413 that were checks that were sent out from the Tabor. Now, if I'm like a lot of other people, and some of the older folks may have set their check aside, I just feel that 6 months is too short of a time. I would prefer to have 1 year. Most of the others that go around here are, with the exception of Boulder, 6 months, but they're all 1 year, 3 years. So again, I would like to make a motion that we amend it.
Okay, it's been moved that we amend the ordinance to change the time that the city holds the checks from 6 months to 1 year. I'll second that. Any discussion on the amendment?
We did ask Finance Director Farman about the time frame when he was not homesick with the flu during first reading. He said that his experience had not shown, his experience elsewhere had not shown problems with such a short time frame. And I think the checks generally would have, or something would say, you know, the time limit for cashing. So I think the 6 months is adequate time. And it makes it a much more efficient use of city staff to stay in that framework.
Any further discussion? John?
Yes, I can't support the amendment. Just in the Tabor checks alone, most of those are 11 months, pushing 12 months. I think they started sending checks out in October of last year. In what? September?
December.
Okay, so these are a couple of weeks short of being a year old. So if somebody hasn't, 6 months, 12 months, I think 6 is fairly standard in the financial industry anymore. Most insurance checks that you receive, dividend checks, those types of things are going to have a 6 month time on them. So I think 6 months is more of a standard than 12 months. And once those Tabor checks expire, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, there goes most of the backlog. So I cannot support the amendment.
Further discussion on the amendment? I have to say that at my age, 6 months is a pretty short period of time. And I realize that it's much more convenient for us to do a 6 month than a year, but I feel some obligation if we owe this money to people to try for a little longer period of time, so I'll be voting for it. Council ready to vote? This is on the amendment to change the time frame from 6 months to 1 year. A yes vote is for the amendment.
The vote is 3 in favor, with Councilwoman Cole, Councilman Taylor, Councilman Ostermiller, and Councilwoman Brinkman voting no. The motion for the amendment fails.
Okay, now we're back to the main motion, which is to change the time from holding from 5 years to 6 months. Any further discussion on the main motion? Council ready to vote?
I would just like to point out, but people can still get the checks reissued. They don't lose the money.
That's right.
The city will reissue a check if theirs is expired, so it's not like they're losing the money.
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Clark voting no. The motion's approved.
Okay. That brings us to 9A, which is an authorization to participate in a rate challenge to Excel Energy.
Council, our Public Works Director, Charlie Bloston, will present this item to you.
Good evening, Council and Scouts. And I'm going to try and make this interesting enough that you won't think that city government has been as dry as it has been for the last hour.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm sure you'll brighten it up, Charlie.
Thank you, John. Council, you have before you tonight a request to participate in a challenge against Xcel Energy on their rate tariffs. For a little bit of history, this affects street lights in town. Okay, Scouts, keep up with me on this one, all right? There were about 3,500 street lights in the city of Littleton. Everything from the ornamental lights on Main Street to the large highway lights we have on Santa Fe Drive, Bellevue Avenue, and Broadway. And those lights all use a certain amount of electricity depending upon the size of the lamp that's in that street light. Xcel Energy charges us a flat rate for that. Every month we pay a fee. And it costs us over $700,000 a year to energize all the street lights in the city of Littleton. What the challenge that is being presented to Xcel is to have a rate tariff that if somebody else owned the street light, they would only provide for the electrical cost. Today in Littleton, as with most cities in Colorado that use Xcel, the company owns the street lights, not the city, not a developer. So any of the street lights throughout the city of Littleton, we do not own. They're owned by Xcel Energy. And they charge us as a depreciation and to recover their cost. Their rate for electricity is higher than it would be if we owned the street lights and just asked for the electricity cost. In the past, Xcel Energy has refused to do this. They feel they have to recover all of their costs, administration all the way to depreciation, and including the electrical costs. So if, for example, we take a street light that might be typical of a residential neighborhood, that light might cost us $15 a month. If it was energy only, it would be less. I don't have an exact number for you because the company refuses to provide that. But I can assure you that working with this group, it would be significantly less than the $15 a month. So we have asked Xcel Energy to have a new rate that, assuming the light was owned by somebody else, all you would pay for is the electricity. And they have not been cooperative to do that. A number of cities, and you'll see them in the communication, there's about 15, have banded together to challenge that. And they need to go to the Public Utilities Commission to do it. And the next hearing before the commission could be as early as in December, but most likely in January or February. The total cost to challenge Xcel Energy on this position, including legal and engineering fees, would be approximately $100,000. They're asking the city of Littleton to participate for $4,500. What do we gain from this? At the moment, all the lights in Littleton are owned by Xcel, as I mentioned. If at some point we wish to own some of the lights, if not all, or have a development occur in Littleton, an example would be the Littleton Village site at the old Marathon Oil property, where somebody else might own the street lights, whether it's a private owner or the city, then we would have the ability to be charged only for the electricity and not for any other costs associated with the street light. You say that's a possibility. Yes, it is. There are cities that do use private companies or they own their own street lights. However, Excel meters those lights, the electricity going into them, and charges the full cost of that meter, plus an extra cost of $7.85 a month for managing the meter. One of the things I thought about in writing this was, will we recover our $4,500? Probably not for quite some time because we don't own any of the lights. Earlier this week, I spoke with Mayor Clark and discussed the possibility if we were to own some of the lights in Littleton, the ones that I would prefer to own and manage are the ornamental lights we use in downtown. They are the ones that we're charged a lot for. I honestly think we could do better than Excel Energy. Excel has indicated a reason, or a number of reasons that they will cooperate with us, but they refuse to actually install that new tariff to have energy only. The group, the coalition of cities, wishes to challenge that all the way to the PUC. Council, if you wish to participate in this, our fee would be $4,500. I would take the money out of our street lighting budget, and it would go into the coalition for legal and engineering fees. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to respond.
Questions for Mr. Bloston? Jim?
I would like to see us own the ornamental lights as well. Having attended a conference where I had an opportunity to speak with the manufacturer, and I asked him specifically about shielding our light for light pollution because we're requiring all of our businesses to do it, and yet we don't do it ourselves. And there is a shield that is manufactured to go on the ornamental lights that we have that will stop the light pollution from those. And it would be our small contribution toward getting rid of or providing dark skies. So I'd like to see us try to purchase the ornamental lights. And besides, when one is destroyed in a wreck, we probably can do it cheaper than what they're charging us to install it.
Councilman Taylor, I totally agree. I believe we could purchase those, have them installed, and do it at a less expense than Excel because they actually charge us overhead and profit. And yes, we have talked to Excel about shielding lights to eliminate the pollution, light pollution, and encourage dark skies, and we haven't gotten anywhere in that area at all. We do not own the lights. I can't control some of those items.
John?
And the memorandum from Kissinger and Fellman, it lists Littleton's share as $4,400. How'd we get up to $4,500?
It was an estimate, and I took it up to the next. I don't know. All these cities may not participate. And if one or two drop out, that's a small city, our fee will go up. At the moment, all the large cities are in. We are actually the last city to enter into it, and I believe one city has refused to do so, but it's not a significant one.
Is Denver part of that?
No.
What, do they own their own lights? Or
no.
They're just not going to participate in this challenge?
I don't know anything more than that.
Okay.
Further questions for Charlie?
Yes. Assume that we would get an affirmative vote from these people. How would we service this? Do we have to have our own trucks to ladder, get up there and take all these lights down? You probably have an additional cost. You'll have to get a new truck or something.
We have the truck.
We have a truck, yes.
Yeah, or we could contract it out. There are other ways to recover the cost of this, Councilman Trujillo. An example would be, without going out and buying the lights from Excel Energy right now, which would be a pretty significant capital expense, even the ones in downtown Littleton. But take an example, the Littleton Village site where Marathon property is. If we were to own those lights, then we could also charge an extra fee to people who live or own property there in order to recover some of our costs back in order to maintain the facilities. In answer to your question directly, we do have a truck already that is capable of going up and replacing bulbs in the streetlights. We would not have to buy equipment.
Charlie, since the council seems interested in the details of this, do you know if such an arrangement would require an amendment to our franchise?
No, we've already looked, and it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Jim?
Charlie, we've got, through the various parcels of land within the city, zoning for about 2,500 residential units spread about from very small acre or two up to the 120 acres at Insert. If the projects that are already in the pipeline, I'm talking about down here at Electron, I'm talking about Nevada Place where the old St. Mary's School was, is it possible that when streetlights go in those developments that we can start the ownership program there, or is it already too far down the pipeline for us to try to step in and do that?
Some of the ones that are under construction right now, it's too far down. But if you took Littleton Village or the Enser property, assuming it would develop as something, there were other vacant lands in Littleton that developments like this could occur, then we could begin this process. But under the existing system, Excel would have to install a meter, and then we would have to collect or meter the electricity to those lights. Under the proposed system, there would be no meter. And again, no $7.85 per month charge just to maintain the meter. All we would be charged is the cost of the electricity. At the moment, Councilman Taylor, that would be very difficult to implement until we have this new rate tariff in effect.
Understand.
Further questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move that the city participate in a proposal to create an energy-only streetlight rate tariff and authorize expenditure up to $4,500 for such effort.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to spend up to $4,500 to make Excel see the light on the tariff issue. Any discussion? Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, that brings us to item 9B, which is a discussion of the 2009 council workshop.
Yes, sir. Council, I sent a memo out to you. Thought we might get a little more discussion from council on your 09 workshop. I brought this up with you several weeks ago. Some of you needed to look at calendars. We've had a couple of suggestions going around, and then I think Dr. Cole also sent an email around to some of the council members. So we're really here tonight just to get some feedback from you in terms of calendar, what appeals to you, and maybe at least start a discussion on what you would like to have some of your topics be for your workshop so that staff could start to prepare. So with that, and we're just opening it up for council feedback.
Jim.
Several things I'd like to ask about. One is downtown parking. I thought when we brought this up earlier a month or so ago, when I was trying to press for doing something at the between Stern Park and railroad tracks.
Yes, sir.
That you said that there would be a parking study that would be done sometime next spring that would give us lots of potential answers for alternatives for downtown parking. If that's the case, then I would prefer it not be on our study session, our workshop list, because I'm not for sure that the parking study is going to be done by that time.
You're asking a very good question, Councilman, and I guess staff is getting a little bit of mixed signals about how accelerated you'd like for the parking discussion to be. And so when we talked with the staff, we were getting some indication from some council members that they thought that issue should come to you quicker. And that's why we are suggesting if you want it to be on your workshop, we'll be as ready as we can be.
Well, I would like to have it accelerated, but I'm not for sure that it's going to be done by the time we have our workshop. And therefore, let me go into the second thing because I'm going to tie it back into this. I would be very much in favor of having only a single day workshop with limited topics. And then if we find out for the parking, for example, that 3 months later or 4 months later, we need to have another workshop, that we schedule that at that time with maybe other topics. But I'd like to see us, for the very first one of the year, limit the topics we're going to have so we can get it accomplished in one day. And therefore, removing downtown parking out of the early workshop, to me, would make a lot of sense.
Yes, sir, we can accommodate either one, and that's what I'm hoping to get as a consensus from the council as to when and how you'd like to do that.
So the first issue is the length of the meeting, and I believe Mr. Taylor just made a motion that it be 1 day long.
I do make a motion to be 1 day long.
Is there a second?
On a Friday.
I'll second. Okay. Is there clamoring for seconds? Council want to discuss?
Yes, I'd like to discuss. I don't know how we can decide how long it should be until we know for sure what topics. So I think we ought to see if people have other topics first.
It is
because I mean, I hear the suggestion of delaying the one, but and if people have other topics, we might indeed need more time. That doesn't preclude having another one later.
I think it's just the opposite. If you said it 1 day, you're going to limit the number of topics you're going to be talking about.
It is a chicken and egg issue.
Well, I guess it depends how urgent we feel the topics are, but...
Further discussion? Okay, council ready to vote? A yes vote limits it to a single day on a Friday.
The vote is 6 in favor, with Dr. Cole voting no. The motion's approved.
Okay.
And for the record, I'd like to clarify that 2008 was 2 days, or a day and a half. I vividly remember that.
The minutes will so note, please. Anybody want to tackle topics?
How about a date?
Okay, or dates. That might be easier.
So we'll get back to topics in a minute?
Sure.
Okay.
Jim, you have some conflicts?
Well, the National League of Cities Board of Directors meeting is going to be on January 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Okay.
And then the following weekend, the 15th through the 20th, I'm out of town. Okay. So the first weekend of January, I'm not sure we're going to be ready. The second weekend, I'm out of town, and the third weekend, I'm out of town. So we either have the 4th or 5th. We're going to talk about January.
And the other suggestions you've had have been February, the first weekend in February, which I believe is the 7th.
The Friday's the 6th.
Yeah,
Friday,
first Friday is the 6th.
Yeah.
But we have bracketing, we have Historic Preservation Board hearings. When is that?
12th and 26th.
Okay. The 12th and the 26th.
Those are Thursdays.
So it sounds like something between the 20th of January and the 12th of February would work. Somebody want to take a stab at a date?
I move we have the council workshop on Friday, January 30th, 2009.
Okay, it's been moved to have the workshop on January 20th. Is there a second?
30th.
30th, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Volve voting no. The motion's approved.
Okay. So we have a length and we have a day. Now, all we need is a topic.
I'd like to move we have police direction, policy direction on the water fund and alternatives for police facilities as 2 of the topics.
Okay. It's been moved to have the topics as a policy direction on water fund and alternatives for police facilities. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Does that mean only those topics or just starting with those topics?
Starting with those topics.
Okay.
My guess would be those topics will take up all day. In fact, my guess is one of those topics will take up all day. Discussion.
Well, I do have another topic, and it might not take all day. I mean, it wouldn't take all day, but so do we want to hear mine now or see if this just fills up the slots?
Well, try your topic. Let's see.
Well, I'd like to have us revisit policy related to moving money around within departments or between departments or whatever. Either clarify and then perhaps tweak, but I'd at least like to get some clarification. That may take a little time on that.
Okay. I believe, since you and I have had this discussion, I believe you're talking specifically capital items that are approved as part of the budget process that then get transferred or used for non-capital purposes. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion for setting the topics as policy direction on water fund and alternatives for police facilities. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilwoman Cole voting no. The motion's approved.
Okay. That takes us, John?
Yes, if I may just ask a question of Tom concerning the dates. Tom, are you available that date? I mean, did you vote no because you...
I voted no on the 30th. I'll be available, but I originally asked for the 6th, so I was going to go for the 6th of February. So, but I could be available on the 30th.
Well, do you want to try for the 6th and see if you can...
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not worth going into.
Okay. Jim?
Going back to what Peggy asked about, can that be handled? She said she didn't think it would take very long. Can that be done during a study session as opposed to trying to do
I would think so, Councilman. I don't think I've been advised as to what clarification is required, so I don't know how long it would take. It doesn't sound like it would need to be a
Sorry, we just seem to be filling up the study session agenda quite a bit, but I don't mind trying to tackle it there. I don't think it takes that long, so.
Well, maybe Dr. Cole or I can get together with you. It might be simple as a memo.
Sure. Like I said, I
okay.
haven't heard what the issue is.
One of the two of us will get together.
And let me just clarify, what was your discussion on the place? Did we decide?
We have not officially decided. Is there any objection to the museum?
Yeah. If we cannot televise live, I object to the museum.
Okay. In that case, we need a motion and a second for where the place is.
I'll make a motion that we hold the 2009 council workshop at the Littleton Historical Museum.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilmember Cole voting no. The motion's approved.
Should we vote on the food?
Maybe.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Tim, for hosting us. That brings us to item 9C, which was added on, which is a discussion of minutes for special meetings. And this is partially prompted by some emails and the difficulties that we've had with minutes, some of which we've talked about previously. But before we get to that, there's been a question raised on the difference between special meetings and study sessions. Our legislative procedures for the council say that all study sessions are special meetings. I believe that the Colorado Open Meetings Law says that any meeting where you take action or where the possibility exists that you take action, you have to take minutes for. Since study sessions are special meetings and special meetings are meetings that the council can take action at, we are obligated to take minutes at special meetings. The point was raised that our legislative procedures are conflicting or at least confusing, and I personally agree with that because there's another section of the legislative procedures that is titled study sessions that talk about study sessions or sessions where there will be no decisions made. Ergo, if that were true, then you wouldn't have to take minutes at study sessions. I think the way the council has operated is that the second and fourth meetings of the month are special meetings where the council can take action. We give direction to staff, although we very rarely ever take any action that is not subsequently ratified through another item at a regular meeting. For instance, we will direct staff to prepare an ordinance, but the ordinance comes back for a regular meeting on a first and second reading. We may direct staff to prepare a resolution that comes back to the council at regular meetings for approval. The only meeting I can think of that was a pure study session was the last workshop we had in February, where I believe the council decided at the beginning of the meeting that they were not going to take any special action, and therefore they were not going to take regular minutes. Am I summarizing that correctly? Okay. So part of the issue that came up on minutes for the special meetings is I think Wendy and Phil are looking for some direction on how much detail goes into the minutes. And I believe most of us would concur that all motions that are made appear in the minutes. And I will take responsibility for that. And I will make sure that all motions and special meetings get recorded along with the vote, and get that information to Phil or whoever's at the special meeting, so that Wendy then can get that into the minutes. I think the minutes generally are in the form of action minutes, and what they have basically become are minutes that describe the actions that are taken by council, plus a brief lead up on what the important points of discussion were coming up to the action. That sometimes isn't inclusive enough for some council members, and we had an example of that with two different council members for, I believe, the October 14th meeting. The way we have been operating is if a particular council person wants more detail in a section of the minutes, that they're welcome to amend the minutes to put that in, which I believe happened for October 14th. And does that summarize what the council's position is and give clarification to the staff?
I would like, though, the agenda to indicate if we expect something to be informational, if we expect that or whatever. That doesn't preclude that we can't do something, as in directing staff to bring something to regular meeting or whatever. But what was it at the last study session? It was with the CIT and so forth. It was essentially informational. That helps me a little bit to know what I'm reading, to know, is there some question we're going to be asked at the end of all this? Some of the other I can figure out, oh, this is the implied question or whatever. And I also would like to clarify whether or not, if a member of the public tells the mayor, let's say before the meeting, geez, I have a concern about this, may I possibly speak during the study session? Would that person be allowed to speak?
Let's take these two items separately. Does the council have any objection to delineating items that are purely informational only when it's possible to know that on the agenda? Is there any objection to that?
You mean like on our regular agenda?
Well, this is for special meetings.
Oh, for special meetings.
Yeah. And the reality is we have very, very few items that are purely informational, almost everything that we discuss, although there occasionally are exceptions. I can think of presentations, for instance, on the immigration initiative. That would be an example We had one on the Rocky Mountain Rail Association, but that actually ended up with some kind of action, a decision for the council to participate in that. The only other thing I can think of is I think Trust for Public Lands came down and did a presentation once on a...
That was the agreement with the county.
On the, well, and the one for the land in Inglewood.
Oh, that's right.
That was partially in Littleton. And that was a presentation that it was just a heads up because they came back to us a month or a month and a half later. But we have very, very few items that are purely informational only. But is there any objection to noting those when we can figure those out?
Well, as long as it doesn't preclude ending up making a decision.
That's my only concern is if you put something down as informational only and the council decides it wants to do that, that may end up being more confusing than not putting it down there.
I guess from my standpoint, the minutes need to reflect the topic, the motion, and the vote. I'm not convinced that I need to read anybody's personal discussion they would have on any topic. I'm not interested in 25 pages of minutes going on. The Roberts rules give very specific direction as to what is included in minutes. And we've done a lot with Roberts rules in the past year, and I guess I'd like to see us continue that as far as the minutes go. And I think that it will tell you need to have what the topic is, what the motion is, what the vote is. You don't have to have discussion about who said what and who said when and who said who. And so I guess I'm asking that they be more simple as opposed to more complicated, which is what I think the previous discussion has been leading us toward.
Ashley, if we can hold that thought for a second, we'll get back to that. If we can finish up on the agenda issue.
I think my intent is to let our public know is whatever it is we're going to be discussing intended really for some decision that night, or will they have a chance to have come down to an unscheduled citizen appearance or whatever and comment before we take final action or whatever, or to provide some mechanism otherwise so that they can email us or call us or whatever with ideas on a topic. Sometimes, indeed, citizens have very good ideas on things, and I hate to miss the opportunity to hear their ideas before I make final decisions on, well, cast my vote on things. So does that, and there are some things that are really intended purely as informational. I mean, last year, the Oxbow property thing, the first time when I sat in during the summer last year and observed, the person came and said, you know, here's such and such, and we'll be coming back to council in several weeks, probably asking for you all for council to spend some money, city money, helping us buy this. But it wasn't, you know, clearly an informational item.
I agree with the goal, and we do occasionally get stuff that is purely informational. It's not very often. My concern is that if we label something as informational only, then we're sort of obligated of not doing any kind of business on it. So we either need to be very, very careful on how we label it, or we'll end up discussing an issue twice, once when we have it in the study session, and then if we realize, special meeting, and then when we realize that we want to take action on it, we would have to take it up at a separate time. But let's get this issue out of the way. Why don't you make that in the form of a motion?
You want me to recall what I said?
I will phrase it for you, and you can tell me if I got it right.
Okay.
That the motion is that we indicate on special meeting agendas items that are purely informational only when possible. Does that capture it?
That's fine.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 3 in favor with Councilman Taylor, Councilman Ostermiller, Councilwoman Brinkman, and Councilman Trujillo voting no. The motion is denied.
Okay. The second issue, the third issue is going back to the minutes. The second issue has completely escaped me.
Well, I think it had to do.
Branchedness of the minutes.
I think it had to do with the complexity, the issue that Mr. Taylor brought up.
I thought that was actually the third issue, but maybe that was it. Okay. Well, let's deal with the minutes then. Going back to our minutes from October 14th, which is actually a rather lengthy meeting. I think that was actually a pretty good compromise between something that's fairly brief, and yet it introduced the topics so that people reading the minutes can understand what led up to it, and yet wasn't overly long. Is that kind of what you had in mind, Jim? This type of format?
Excuse me. The October minutes I don't have an objection to. I think they were fairly succinct and did reflect the tenor of what went on at that meeting.
Okay. And that's what I had in mind. I don't know if other council people are looking for something more or less. And frankly, it's a struggle to get the right level of minutes. And we recognize that you've been working pretty hard to try and do that. And we appreciate that work. So you're okay with the October 14th style of minutes for special meetings?
The corrected ones.
Well, that was an example where we added some things in there because council people had specific items that they wanted to add in.
Phil, I don't know if it's possible to use a bit of discretion on something like this too. If we're in a study session or a special meeting, what are we calling them?
Special meetings.
Special meeting, and we have what may have appeared to be, a mundane or neutral or subject that isn't going to cause a lot of discussion, and it ends up causing 45 minutes to an hour of discussion, and there's a lot of debate going around. I think there should be something in the minutes that at least indicates that there was active discussion, and then maybe to guide people so that they know that there was, a lively debate here, and, you can go to the city website for complete information. I mean, for people that are reading the minutes and looking for just a little bit more information instead of detailing it all for the special meeting, that would have helped with the October meeting.
Well, I'll remind council that we're looking for the Granicus system, am I saying that correctly? And that will have a correspondence between items on the agenda, items in the minutes, I believe, and the audio, or rather the video portion of it. So I think that will help solve a lot of the problems. If there's a particular item in the agenda that people want to get more information to, they will be able to go to that very quickly and listen in rapt attention as we discuss that.
So since you've said that, can we clarify, when we get the minutes, we'll get written minutes, right, from the Granicus system?
We will continue to have written minutes. Is that correct?
So,
Sure. Kelly will come to the mic so we can get this on the front of the TV.
evening. Your minutes won't change. What Rochelle's doing right now will be exactly the same. What will happen is that the written, printed minutes on the website will be synced with the video and audio of the meeting. So you could go to, you could call up tonight's meeting and say agenda item 9A on the written side and click on it. And the written portion will appear on the right side of the screen, and the video portion will play on the left side of the screen. If you want to do it that way, you can either watch the video or look at the written minutes or place them side by side so you can watch both at the same time.
But there might be, for example, on that October 14th meeting, 40 minutes of discussion that isn't mentioned in the written minutes.
Right, and the written minutes would say, agenda item 7A, the motion was this, the vote was this, and here's who voted how, and then you could watch it.
But I think that the discretion thing that Debbie mentioned, I mean, if you had a 45-minute discussion, it seems to me you could have a simple sentence that says, there were distinctly varying points of view about this topic.
Right, in the October 14th meeting, for example, there was considerable discussion about whether or not to make Cooley Lake, so that someone would know there's considerable.
It doesn't have to be a chapter and verse blow by blow of who said what and who,
Right, just that there was considerable discussion about
disagreement, different points of view, considerable discussion, just something that I think where Debbie was trying to get to is just kind of gives a little bit more of the atmosphere, the context of the discussion, and then if somebody wants to hear blow by blow, then they'll have the Granicus and they can go, as Mayor said, sit and rapt to attention.
And then if I can ask something else about the Granicus, how long will those be available? That the complete
You're
version.
giving her a good workout here tonight.
We haven't figured that out yet, but we have a media vault. Our intention is to keep them for a long time. Is that 2 years, 5 years? I don't know.
4 decades. 4 decades.
I hope they don't outlive me. We don't know.
Okay, I mean,
We're gonna
because
keep
right
them-
now, if I
Right now, it's only a month.
on the website, but the DVDs are kept for a year, if I understand this right, at the library, only for a year.
Yeah, it is a year, and that was a policy decision that the library made as to how
Right.
how long they would keep them.
Yeah, so I just think it's important for us to get that clarified.
They will certainly be kept longer on the website than they are now.
Okay.
John?
A follow-up question. How long, either in the attorney's office, the city clerk's office, whatever, are the CDs or DVDs of the meetings kept?
Permanent in the clerk's office.
What did you say?
It's permanent in the clerk's office. It's a permanent record.
Okay.
So I think that helps satisfy our, it's really incumbent on us. We are part of the discussion. The staff makes their best shot at trying to discern what the important items are that need to be highlighted in the minutes. If that doesn't, in our judgment, if that doesn't satisfy the need for depicting what needs to be depicted in the minutes, then I think it's incumbent on us to take that section and delineate what needs to be put in there as long as we are faithful to what actually happened. And I think that's probably the best working compromise because we're the ones that actually know what's important to us and what we think needs to be important in the minutes. They're trying to make their best assumption. And rather than having them try to guess at it, I think it's probably best to use their best judgment and then us modify it as appropriate when that needs to be appropriate. That'll do you for?
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I will tell you really what my true feeling is about the October 14th meeting is that I think the topic of BAC discussion got a little verbose.
I still can't get anything streaming on my iMac, So I go to DVDs, and that's a lot of work. Someday I'll figure it out, or someone will tell me how to get the. I've
Buy a Dell.
I've downloaded what I'm supposed to download.
Oh, ouch.
Buy another computer.
I was going to make a joke about Apple's being so good with video, but I decided not to. Does that provide the staff, is there concurrence on the council? Is there objection to that basic direction for the minutes? Does that give you guys direction? Is that sufficient?
It's going to get confusing
Want to
again.
get on a record? Sure. That makes general sense, as long as when there is a heated discussion or a long, lengthy discussion, if there is going to be a desire by a councilperson or council members to have something noted at the meeting, it would help if they say it then. So if you say, that discussion I just had, I'd like my stance to be noted in the minutes. That will even help us more. But everything you said makes perfect sense to us. We struggle just as much as you do, and I think Wendy appreciates any help you can give us, and just give us some feedback. And we'll try, along with the mayor, we had a discussion today, we'll at study sessions, we'll try to all help each other and make sure, do we all understand what that motion was? Do we all get the right vote? So.
I want to say that I think staff is doing an incredible job with the study sessions. As Tom was dealing with an issue, and then I go back and try to listen to the tape and hear what's going on, and some of us don't speak as loudly as others, and some things don't get picked up no matter who's saying them. And one issue, a suggestion was made, and 15, 20 minutes later, it was alluded to then to become a motion. And that's very hard for somebody listening to those programs to track all that. So I think it reflects we are thinking in study mode, and that makes it more difficult. So
in that particular instance, that reflected an error on the chair's part in not making sure that was clarified and procedurally followed correctly.
Well, it just means we need to all together monitor and help with what it is we're doing, I think. So nobody's at odds, I think.
Okay. Any further discussion on this topic? All right, that takes us to 12A, which is a resolution regarding a proposed regional transportation authority.
Council Charlie will also present this to you.
I started to drift off back there. Council, before you tonight is a resolution that, if adopted, would indicate an interest by Littleton in participating in a regional transportation authority that I'll from this point on call RTA. Kelly, could I have the projector on? The question is, what is an RTA? Or a regional transportation authority. It's a funding method for improving, building, or maintaining transportation facilities. It's a program concept versus things like express toll lanes. And it's an organizational entity, which would be like a special district. Thank you, Kelly. That's all I need. Let me give you a little history where this one is coming from. Council, a number of years ago, I sat in on committee with CDOT, Douglas County, and a number of other agencies regarding improvements to C-470 from Kipling Avenue east to I-25. CDOT managed the study and spent millions of dollars to hire a firm to do an environmental assessment and preliminary engineering to install express toll lanes along that stretch of C-470. During the process, Douglas County objected to the express toll lanes and wished to pursue general purpose lanes. A majority of the participants participants in the study, including CDOT, did not want to go in that direction. That study was complete, but never actually accepted or adopted by the federal government or CDOT. Douglas County challenged it in court, saying that express toll lanes were not in the best interest of the county, and they took it to court and won. As a result, that study has been completed, but as I said, has not been adopted. Douglas County is now spearheading an effort to form an RTA among several counties and cities in the area in order to build and maintain improvements on C-470 that would be general purpose lanes, not express toll lanes. I've included a lot of stuff in your council communication. Several weeks ago, Councilman Taylor sent out an email requesting council's interest in participating in a study of RTAs. Currently, through Dr. Cog, there is an organizational group that is attempting to study RTAs and whether or not it should include the entire metro area or be done in subgroups. There are RTAs existing in the Denver area right now. Douglas County has recently approached us saying, would you participate at the table, no financial involvement at this time, in order to consider forming an RTA to improve C-470. It would include financing and political involvement in order to make it work. It also would include a public vote because this would be a new taxing district. I did not indicate to Douglas County one way or another. I didn't know whether or not the council wanted to pursue this through an RTA or just wait it out for some other means to finance it. As you'll notice, and something that I don't do very often in this council communication, we do not make a recommendation on this one. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Council, I probably ought to give a little bit of background on this also. I met on October 14th with Marilyn Worley, who is the chairman of the Douglas County Commissioners. At her request, she wanted to talk about RTAs. I expressed a number of very serious reservations that I personally had, and I thought that the citizens of Littleton would have on an RTA, while acknowledging that we have transportation issues across the metro area that aren't being addressed by CDOT or the legislature. And one of those reservations that I have is having sub-RTAs for the whole metro area. Because transportation really is a system, and delegating that the people that are within a certain radius of a highway pay for the highway, I don't think is a very fair way of doing it. Her response is you have to start someplace. And I think there is some validity to that. I'm very leery about any kind of commitment that the city would have for an RTA. I have serious reservations on RTAs that are subsets of the metro area, but I recognize that she's taking the bulls by the horns and trying to get something done. Although the something that she's getting done in its present form, I don't think would be acceptable to the citizens of Littleton. So I guess the question is how much time do we want to invest in this, and how much legitimacy do we want to risk giving this particular endeavor by being part of the process, versus how much influence do we think that we might have on the outcome of this, especially considering the fact that Dr. Cog is taking up almost that exact same issue. Jim?
Well, I was one of the 5 elected members of the same study group that Charlie was talking about. And one of the very few people who supported CDOT in their quest to put toll lanes on C-470 as additional, providing additional capacity. I have told people at Dr. Cog when asked about forming an RTA that I did not think our citizens would approve one. it became Dr. Cog region, the 7 metropolitan counties became eligible to create an RTA during the last legislative session, where they granted us that ability to do so. Otherwise, it's just the rural counties, rural portions of the state that could do that. But I agree that if it is the entire metro area, it would have some merit and some benefit, and we might be able to sell that to citizens. But if it is going to be only the South Metro corridor around C-470, I would be opposed to us joining an RTA. I was at a meeting this morning where the Regional Transportation District was giving a synopsis about the scenarios they're presenting to the public and to their board on shortfalls of funding. And there is a possibility, as Doug will probably tell you from the Metro Mayor's Caucus, of coming back to the voters asking for additional funds. I don't think that you can go to the voters and ask for additional funds for RTA, for RTD, and for a Regional Transportation Authority both. They probably both would fail if that were the case. And my position is going to be, when this finally gets down to a vote, is to not support us participating in an RTA.
Further discussion?
The project you were talking about, putting the lanes from, I think it was Kipling all the way out to I-25.
Right.
Now, one of the problems that those people had at that time, I believe, was the fact that if that went in, it made it almost impossible for the municipalities to fix their infrastructure on roads that were running parallel to it. If I remember right, that was one of the things that they didn't want anybody building any roads that were going to impede this whole tollway. So I think that in effect had a lot to do with it. If I remember right, that's
at some point, County Line Road between Broadway and Santa Fe Drive is going to need improvement.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I really think what Douglas County is attempting to do short circuits finding a long-term solution to the transportation problems in this state. If local areas start forming RTAs or even voting on them, I think that really means we are not going to find a statewide solution. The Blue Ribbon, Governor's Blue Ribbon Commission on Transportation came up with a lot of different scenarios, and something's going to have to be done in the future. We're going to have to raise gas tax, we're going to have to raise registration fees or something just to take care of our roads in this state. If each little area starts forming RTAs, they are not going to turn around and approve more funds for CDOT. That's my feeling. The other thing that concerns me about RTAs is if an RTA is formed, what's to keep the state legislature from saying, you have an RTA, you have a source of tax, you aren't going to share in the gas tax anymore? And I just feel that that very easily could happen at the legislature. So I just feel this is really premature, could certainly short circuit any actions to solve the problem, and I can't support joining Douglas County in this.
You're right, there is no hold harmless provision in funding if an RTA is formed.
Well, even if you put one in, I'm not sure that you could enforce that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Further discussion? All right. Do we want a motion so that we can dispose of this item one way or the other?
I would prefer not to make the motion since I got to vote on this at RTD. I mean, at Dr. Cog.
I understand completely.
I move the resolution committing Littleton to participate in negotiations regarding a potential governmental agreement creating a multi-jurisdictional regional transportation authority be denied.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to deny the resolution committing Littleton to participate in negotiations regarding a potential agreement for a multi-jurisdictional regional transportation authority. The yes vote means no go. The no vote means yes go. And I see everyone's ready to vote.
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Clark voting no. The resolution is denied.
Okay. That takes us to reports. Mr. City Manager.
I don't have anything else tonight, Mayor.
Ms. Attorney.
I don't have anything there.
Dr. Cole.
Council did get a memo about this from library, but just in case anybody's listening still out there in TV land or here, the library does have now installed its self-checkout system, and that will allow you to check out books much faster, and it's kind of fun, so let people know about that. And we've already heard mention of the Historical Preservation Board forums that are scheduled for February 12th and 26th. That's all. Thank you.
Jim.
Yes, I got a phone call this morning from a female senior citizen who owns an older home, and she was in the process of getting insulation put into primarily her attic. And the costs were coming in pretty high. And I guess one of the people giving her an estimate told her that Adams County and Inglewood were both giving 20% rebates on insulation being installed, and wanted to know if Littleton was going to do that. So I guess I'd like to ask if enough people on council would agree to have staff look into what that is and what the details are, and then we can discuss whether we want to do something like that, take into account the cost it would be to us.
I think Jim is talking about the governor has a program where the cities match funds with the state, and then those funds are used to subsidize
I think
insulation.
Jim Thielen has discussed that with us. Maybe, Council, what we could do is send you out an information, a background memo.
It'd be helpful
on it, and then you can decide.
I think that'd be great. Any objections to that?
You want to pursue it?
That's fine.
Okay, great.
Littleton Housing Authority ended up the year slightly ahead of budget and slightly below expenditures, so we came out all right. The last meeting, everything was pretty routine. There's going to be a major inspection on the 29th of December, so the staff is doing lots of preparation work, getting ready for that. I missed a study session last week. I was at the National League of Cities meeting. Somebody said, well, did you enjoy Orlando? Well, let me tell you, I had a breakfast meeting every morning. I attended meetings all morning long. I had a lunch meeting every day, meetings all afternoon. I had evening receptions. I was outside catching the bus to go to an off-site reception twice, and then I walked out on Friday night because I was going to watch the shuttle launch. I was in a reception inside the building, looked at my watch, and it's supposed to go off at 5 minutes till 8. And that's what it was. And I thought, well, they'll be late. Got outside, it's gone. I missed it. But people were kind enough to show it to me on their cell phone pictures. But I attended things like the program committee, orientation for new members, which I'm one of the mentors for, Small Cities Council, First Tier Suburbs Council, Western Municipal Conference, and of course we had a day and a half meetings of the Board of Directors. I was in Democratic Governments, Community Regional Development meetings, University Communities Caucus, resolutions meetings, nominating committee meetings, and then attended a general membership luncheon. President-elect Obama is planning to appoint a municipal policy chairman in his administration. And it was rumored that the mayor of Miami, Manuel Diaz, who is president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, is getting very strong consideration. I heard him speak. He was one of our speakers at one of our general sessions, and he talked primarily about the stimulus package that he was hoping Congress would be working on this week. We had 484,841 attendees, including 129 youth. There were 600 activities going on at the conference, 40 workshops, Leadership Training Institute sessions, 4 general sessions, 375 booths in the exhibit hall, and a city showcase. Kaboom built a playground while we were there. And actually, it was at the Kaboom reception that made me miss the shuttle launch. They also approved the drug discount membership program for underinsured or those who have no insurance. Keynote speakers, though, at our general sessions, the first one was Ken Duberstein, who's the chief of staff under President Reagan. And he said that President-elect Obama's first item and for the first few months would be concentrating on the economy. And since the session has ended, you get back and read or listen to the news, and it's not only the economy, it's going to be national security. So I think that Duberstein was right on. The most interesting speaker we had was Thomas Friedman, and he's the author who wrote The World is Flat. His new book is called Hot, Flat, and Crowded. And normally, my opinion of authors, they're pretty dull speakers. You know, they have monotone voices, and they get up there and read a speech. This guy put on a speaker and walked from one end of a huge stage to the other, engaged the audience. He spoke for almost an hour without looking at a note, and really had some very pertinent points to make. But it was also a promotion for his book as well. But anyway, I brought back a whole bunch of information, just had not had time to go through and sort it out, and I'll be bringing it over to various members of staff whenever I have time to sort through a bunch of stuff. So that's my report.
Thank you. Sorry you were taunted by Orlando.
Did you buy the book?
You know, I did not. I had to pay an overweight charge to get my suitcase back anyway because I brought back so many papers. Not only do you pay for a charge for your suitcase, you pay a $50 overweight charge because it's too heavy. So I did not buy a book, Tom. I figure I can buy one here in the bookstore.
Get it later. That's right. Most of us went to the Veterans Day ceremonies, which I thought were very good this year. The weather was beautiful. The flyover came in low. The mayor didn't speak too long. But I did have concern about the bricks out there because my name's on one of those bricks and they're all fading. And I brought it up with Charlie. He's going to look into it later on when he gets time and see if there's anything we can do with it, or we can get American Legion or VFW to start a campaign to save those bricks. Because, right, I guess it's very expensive just to take them up and work them that way. So there may be another way, and Charlie will look into that for us. Most of us also attended the grand opening or the pre-opening of Merle's. And I would recommend to our viewers out there to give it a try because I think it's going to be very good and help downtown Littleton. That's all I have.
John?
Nothing this evening.
Yep.
No report.
Jose?
No.
I have nothing. You have any, Dr. Cog?
Yes, our major topic is going to be tolling. We had a regional transportation committee meeting this morning, and it's tolling on the Jeffco Parkway plus other areas. So the board is looking at a recommendation tomorrow night that will divide the question into 2 parts. The first part is going to be using the current process for evaluating the Jefferson Parkway, and then asking the Transportation Advisory Committee to look at what changes are needed, if any, from the House Bill 1148 process that they use for the Colorado Tolling Enterprise for other toll roads. And that will be coming back to us at a later time. Tomorrow evening, we start at 4 with a climate change workshop, and then the Board of Directors meeting will be occurring thereafter. And one other thing I was going to mention is that I'm having a fundraiser Christmas party on December 14th, 2 to 8 p.m. at my house. If anybody, it's an open invite for anybody who'd like to come. And I sent you guys invitations. If you got some extras that you're not going to be using, I'll send them back. If you give them back to me, I'll use them. Peggy had asked me to send it out electronically, which I forgot to do before I left for Orlando, but I will get it out electronically because it's sometimes easier to communicate that way.
Okay. Council, we have an executive session afterwards, which we need to have a motion for and a vote on to evaluate the city manager.
I move that we go into executive session under Colorado Statute 24-6-402, paren 4, subparagraph F, to discuss personnel matters, specifically the review of city manager. Said meeting to be held in the city manager's conference room. Building department conference room, excuse me.
For a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have an executive session to discuss personnel issues. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay. One thing before we go into executive session is we traditionally have the meeting evaluate Jim and then meet with him afterwards. I want to suggest an alternative, and that is rather than have Jim wait until we get done, what does the council think about meeting a little early on the December 2nd, which is our next regular meeting, and giving him the results of the evaluation?
That's a good idea.
Is that all right with everybody?
Will that be on TV then?
I think that part would also be an executive session, but the second part of the process is we need to discuss the goals and objectives for the coming year, which I think would be open in session, which would then be at the end of that meeting also, on the 2nd.
So you're proposing to meet before the beginning of the meeting and then executive session at the end of the meeting?
No,
excuse
we
me,
would have
open discussion during the meeting.
We would have a executive session at the beginning of the meeting to give the city manager the results of that. We will then have to vote if we decide to do a raise during the December 2nd meeting, and then we have the issue of doing goals and objectives for the coming year, which I think could be an open session. Is that all right with you to do that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Otherwise, the alternative is that Jim would hang around until we got done doing that discussion tonight, and then we would give him the results and discuss that tonight. This just saves him having to hang around. It means that we would show up a little early on the 2nd.
I like that. Is that a motion?
We would have to make that a motion now, wouldn't we, to set an executive session prior to a meeting on December 2nd?
Well, you should just convene on the 2nd and then go into executive session.
Yeah. So we'll just convene.
Convene early.
Yeah.
And then immediately move into executive session.
Okay, so we'll have to decide what time we're going to meet on the 2nd so it can be posted?
Right.
Okay.
The other thing is if we do that, do we have to modify our starting time now? Because this is the last meeting that we have before that.
Yes.
I'm getting a shake of heads.
Right, but we have to post our meetings at least 24 hours in advance.
Yeah.
So as long as if you want to talk about that tonight, that's fine. We just need to know in advance so we can post it.
Jim?
I would suggest that we pass a motion this evening to start our session on December 2nd at 6 p.m. and immediately go into executive session, so it's listed that way on the whatever we post, so people don't show up at 6 p.m. and expect to hear us. And then the regular meeting would begin at 7.
It's been moved to start our regular meeting at 6 p.m. on December 2nd. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
It'll take an hour.
I'm not sure it'll take an hour, but it's better to start then and have the time than it is to.
Got to have more than cookies here.
I think there's been an indication of more than cookies for the second.
Write that down.
Any discussion? Council ready to vote? The vote is, the motion is to start the meeting on December 2nd at 6 p.m. We will then convene, move at that time to go into executive session and do it then.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay. I think that we are not adjourned but recessed into the executive session.